A winter storm is now barreling across the United States, bringing freezing cold temperatures to the entire country, essentially, including major parts of the South that are typically not very well equipped to deal with this sort of thing. This includes the state of Texas, which very famously in the winter of 2021, with a major winter storm in the area, caused power outages across wide swaths of the state that lasted up to a week plus long and caused all sorts of other problems, including frozen water pipes and whatnot, causing massive mayhem through the city of Austin and several others across the state. This is going to be a very tricky thing to deal with as again, specifically in Texas, parts of New Mexico, Arizona, these cold temperatures are coming amidst the massive surge of asylum seekers at the southern border, who, as we talked about the other day in the video that I did about Title 42 expiring, are essentially dealing with thousands of people showing up in these cities on the streets with nowhere really to stay. Beyond just the asylum seekers, several of these cities have homeless populations that they need to deal with, and one city in particular seems to wait until the very last second here to be able to tell folks what they should be doing. We'll get into all of that and more, but first let's actually take a look at what this storm is going to be. Alrighty, headline: winter weather updates, bone-chilling cold to grip central and eastern U.S. Record low temperatures and heavy snow are forecast across much of the country leading up to the holiday weekend. And I really just wanted to show this map here that kind of shows how big of an area that this is affecting. These are not actual temperatures, but they are the degrees warmer or cooler than average for the day. You can see much of the country well below average. A lot of the country 30 degrees below their average low temperatures for this day in the country right now. To be a little bit more specific with it, we've got in the city of El Paso, Texas, right on the southern border, where we have lots of migrants at the moment. Temperatures in the low 20s. In the city of Austin, Texas, we've got temperatures in the low teens. So this is definitely going to be a major issue. Let's start first with El Paso, as well as Eagle Pass, where we have another southern Texas border city, where there are actually thousands and thousands of asylum seekers showing up each day at this point. Again, this according to several sources and videos that we showed on the ground, as well as the El Paso mayor, who actually declared a state of emergency in his city, expecting up to 6,000 asylum seekers per day being processed through Customs and Border Patrol and then being released onto the streets of El Paso. The city is trying to come up with ways to deal with it because they're getting no help from the federal government at this point to help deal with this clearly big problem. We can pull up a tweet here first, Colin. Breaking: with freezing temps looming, El Paso will use 2 vacant schools to shelter migrants who have been released from federal custody. El Paso, Texas government and El Paso ISD, which is the school district, will, quote, welcome the migrants in a safe and humane manner, said Emergency Management Coordinator Jorge Rodriguez. Again, with the massive numbers of people showing up overnight, and people, as we saw in the video the other day, people are essentially lined up after crossing the water. They're walking through the water. Walking through the water, getting in a line, and then just essentially walking through this line and being greeted by Customs and Border Patrol. So this is a fairly orderly looking manner for something like this. So orderly, in fact, that it's insane to me that we're not just having these people walk over a bridge. Instead, we're treating them like cattle and herding them through the water, as I said the other day. But they're walking through the water, then they're sitting on the cement river walls, basically, waiting for the line to get them up to the front where Customs and Border Patrol are. And now they're sitting on the cement, soaking wet after crossing the water, freezing. And then when they get up there, they are processed and taken somewhere and then released onto the streets. And then hopefully these folks on the streets find their way into these shelters. Hopefully there's enough space in the shelters. Hopefully we don't have these people still crossing the water and sitting in that line. I couldn't find anything this morning on that. But a very real possibility that there are still folks in that line going through that. There were people who had been waiting there for days. And if we don't do something about that, I mean, you're going to have people dying of hypothermia trying to cross the border in the next 24 to 48 hours. That is not a scene that should be happening anywhere, let alone with folks trying to seek asylum into the United States. Again, I don't even care where you stand on the policy. These are people that should be treated with respect, whether we're going to allow them to come into the country or we're ultimately going to send them home. They should not be dying of hypothermia at the southern border. Again, this is not only in El Paso, but in Eagle Pass as well. We've got reports yesterday of thousands of people coming across and at least being apprehended and working with Border Patrol at that crossing as well, where again, temperatures will be in the teens in that part of the state. Beyond the asylum seekers, there's a sizable homeless population in several Texas cities, including the city of Austin, where I live. I'm not there right now. I'm currently traveling for the holidays. But the city of Austin, their policy, for whatever reason, whenever they announce warming shelters for the homeless, is to generally wait until the morning of to make that announcement. Now, you might think, okay, that's plenty of time. They've got all day to get to the place. But when you think about it in the sense that most of the homeless population isn't sitting there like on Twitter or like subscribed to some email list about when the homeless shelter is going to open, it becomes a much bigger problem. It's the kind of thing that you want to give several days of notice for the word to get around. You need to tell several people so that they tell the other folks that they know, and then the whole community finds out that, hey, number one, the shelter will be open or it won't be. Number two, where am I going to put all of my stuff while I'm in there so that it doesn't get stolen? Because that's a concern that a lot of these people have. They don't have a safe place to keep some of their belongings. There are some facilities where they can do that, but they need to pre-plan that in advance. And then number three, they actually have to get themselves there and have the appropriate amount of time to do so. So the city was dragging its feet. Several other cities in the state had already made announcements about when theirs were going to be opened, and the city of Texas only did so after catching some flack online. We can go ahead and pull up that tweet. And to give you some context, the Austin Sanders here is a local journalist, and the person he is quote tweeting below is the president of the Austin EMS Association, which is the Austin EMS Union. Selena tweeted out first, "Our medics have been asking for Austin, Texas government to open cold weather shelters, and they still haven't made the decision to do so, even though it's obvious that they should. They need to make the plans now and make them extremely accessible. Insane that they haven't already made the call." Then later, quote tweet from journalist Austin Sanders saying, "Hours later, and public health sends information about cold weather shelter, but fails to announce if they will be activated this week, even though temperatures are forecasted in the teens, and other city departments are sharing emergency weather preparedness info." This made some noise in Austin Twitter, if you will. Eventually, yesterday, so the day before, the city made the announcement that the shelters would be open for tonight, but that they wouldn't open until essentially this evening, when temperatures are already going to be dropping like an absolute rock into the 20s at this point. Again, leaving very little time for, number one, word to get out to these folks. Again, a lot of them may not even have any idea that there's a winter storm coming. The temperatures in Austin were pretty nice out most of the week. It has not been in the 20s at all. That is abnormally cold for this time of year. And the weather this morning in Austin is going from roughly 60 to down to 15 in a matter of hours. So a dramatic situation that, again, the president of the EMS union shouldn't have to be the one going out and saying it. But the reason that I would imagine she is because Austin EMS is the ones that, during the big freeze in 2021, we even had cold weather last year at one point where fortunately the power didn't go out. But Austin EMS is the one who shows up when someone dies of hypothermia and is laying frozen on the sidewalk. And the fact that the city can't, break away from we wait until the day before to prevent these people from being in that situation and dying there, and to prevent the EMS from, when we clearly know that the weather is going to be freezing cold, why not make the plan ahead of time to prevent homeless folks in the city ending up in body bags, essentially? It's ridiculous. At this point, though, we'll see as far as power and whatnot goes for the state of Texas. Greg Abbott and his team have assured us that it will be fine. Colin, you can go ahead and pull up that tweet with the video.
The grid is ready and reliable. We expect to have sufficient generation to meet demand throughout this entire winter weather event.
I will say, though, this is anecdotal for me, but again, living in Austin and knowing people there, last year when we had a big storm, the grocery stores were absolutely in shambles ahead of that storm, when the governor, assured everyone that the power was definitely not going out. And again, I'm not there right now, but from folks I've talked to, same deal. Can't buy water at the grocery store. All sorts of the essentials are going, and the lines are going crazy. Probably a combination of people preparing for the storm as well as the holidays that we are getting into right now. A lot of people don't realize this, but beyond the power being out during that, I know people who didn't have water for 3 weeks after that storm in 2021, because what happened was everybody lost their power, everybody lost their heat and whatnot. So when the heat went and the power was out and it was very low temperatures for 3 or 4 days in a row, so people's houses got below freezing and all of their pipes just started bursting. And when the amount of pipes that were bursting in people's homes and in apartment complexes, it took weeks for plumbers to get to all of these places. So anecdotally, I know someone who was literally scooping buckets of water out of their pool and filling up their bathtub with it so that they could use that water to flush their toilet for 3 weeks. So I hope Governor Abbott is correct that the grid will not go out. The improvements to the grid that should have been made all have not been made, but it seems like there's going to be less winter weather this time, really just cold temperatures, and it's going to be for a shorter span. So ultimately, we will see. Definitely stay tuned for this. We'll keep you updated as the storm goes on. Also keep an eye out for more content later today and tomorrow on the Zelensky speech yesterday, as well as more information on the omnibus bill. We'll have a live stream going on later today. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell for that. You can give me a follow on Twitter at LewisD217. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day.